Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Felix Jones and Lego Cheetah, and welcome to my review of Moana. So, Moana is the new Pixar feature-length movie. It's been pretty well advertised. I didn't see too many adverts for it around. I didn't see them plastering up a new one every single day. In fact, I saw they actually put an advert in this movie for the short film that was put at the beginning, which is really something when they've got the when they have to actually advertise the opening feature in order to entice people to go and see Moana. It was like when they put Frozen Fever at the beginning of that live-action retelling of Cinderella. It's because because they didn't think that people were going to get people into the audience, and that's actually really sad when Pixar are at that stage where they have to advertise a separate feature in order to entice people to come and see their latest main film. And I mean, I can kind of see why, to be honest. But we'll get into that. So, going to be spoiler free, but I will do a tiny little spoiler section at the end. Anyway, so where to get started on this movie? When I started watching this film, firstly, I really enjoyed the opening feature, so it's kind of worth going. If tickets aren't that expensive where you are, they're not for me, fortunately, but for most people they are quite expensive, I hear. So, yeah, maybe if it's really cheap, it's probably worth going just for the opening feature because it's actually quite entertaining. If very existentialist for a Pixar production. It's very dark and talks about people just working themselves into the grave. Anyway, that aside, let's talk about the actual movie itself. So Moana, despite the fact that I was going to see this movie, it was a Disney Pixar movie, somehow I let that slip my mind. In fact, I kind of was so... I get to that point when I'm watching the opening trailers where I kind of zone out, and I zoned out, and I kept that zoning out through the production logos. So when the movie got started and we had all this 3D animation, I initially tricked myself into thinking that I was watching a DreamWorks production. And that seemed like... And for what I was watching up to that point, for the first 10 to 15 minutes, that I had somehow lulled myself into thinking that, I thought, oh, this is fair for a Pixar for a DreamWorks production, but I thought they were heavily leaning on Disney. But then I was just like, that's just what DreamWorks does, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of like DreamWorks 3D animation is often just sort of like a cut rate Disney. Oh God, is the Boss Baby, is that DreamWorks? Because that looks utterly awful, and the trailers are so horrible for that. Like the baby voiced by Alec Baldwin, it's like really sexualized. There's like all these spanking noises. Oh, it's horrible. What an awful idea for a film. Anyway, that aside, so yeah, watching this movie, I was like, oh yeah, it's really borrowing from Pixar or just other Disney stuff, and yeah, it hugely is. Like the opening of this movie is like all the other Disney movies cut up and put into one. You've got the disapproving father figure, and you've got the daughter who wants to be the perfect daughter, but just doesn't seem to fit into the society's template for her. She wants so much more than this provincial life. You've got I mean, I hate to be spoilers about it, but there's a dead parent as well, or like a dead guardian figure, and it really is just like paint by number. It's like a Disney movies mashup, and you've got the cute animal sidekick and such. It's really, really kind of awkward. It's like it's just lots of things that I've seen done in other places better in Disney movies. You know, it's like in fact there's this one line in the song where Moana's talking about how she doesn't quite fit in. She says something about wanting to be the perfect daughter. And then you're like, I would break my family's heart. Who is that girl I see staring straight back at me? Etc. God, that's a good song. I mean, Mulan's a pretty lackluster Disney movie, but that still blows this one out the water. But yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a amalgamation of just done things, and it just didn't feel very original. It wasn't fresh. There wasn't like anything new being brought to the table all the time. This movie, the visuals, there are a couple of visuals which I would go and see the movie for. The animation is still really nice looking. It's a lot more cartoonish, so despite the fact a lot of this movie takes place in the ocean, it doesn't really look that much like the actual ocean most of the time. But there are some moments where I was looking at it and sort of taken away, but was carried away by just how gorgeous the animation could look. But that was like 2 or 3 shots in otherwise like an hour and a half movie, and once again Pixar's reputation is just not, they're not doing too well in my books after Finding Dory and The Good Dinosaur and, what else am I thinking of? It doesn't really matter. Oh, Cars 3 looks interesting. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to that actually, which is saying something about Cars. Anyway, yeah, this film's a musical, and perhaps if you've watched a lot of my films, you might, a lot of my reviews, then you might know that I very much like musicals myself. I adore musicals. The music in this was not that amazing. There's one song that's sung by Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords, and that's kind of fun because I like him from Flight of the Conchords. But yeah, the writing of the songs, it just doesn't really work. The guy who wrote the music, whose name escapes me, he also wrote the music for a musical theatre, a staged musical called Hamilton, which you may or may not have heard of. I actually coincidentally happen to have recently been sampling some of his work because my girlfriend's a fan, and it's pretty interesting. It's not amazing because like there's a pattern that I've clearly seen in the music that I've heard from Hamilton and the music from this film, where the writer's trying to cram exposition into the music, but he's not very good at it, and it's sort of like the song gets distracted for a minute, and it doesn't really fit in very well with the rest of the piece, because it goes off topic and goes, oh, by the way, here's your character flaw. I'm just going to point that out, despite the fact it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Anyway, back to what I'm doing, and it really is like just you know, spewing it into the audience's face. Like, if you didn't get it, this is this character. It's like in the review for Hamilton. Sorry, I know you're not going to like it very much, so I'm saying these bad things about Hamilton, but it's got to be said. Like, there's this bit where in Hamilton, in this musical piece, where two people are talking for the first time, and he's like, you remind me of myself. You're a woman who's never been satisfied. Oh, is that right? You're like me. I've never been satisfied. Is that right? Yes, I'm never satisfied. He says it like 3 times. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we get the idea. You're not fucking satisfied about things. Yeah, that's from a song called, oh, what's it called? Either way, it's from Hamilton, and it's like a wedding song. It's actually kind of worth a listen. Hamilton does sound kind of interesting because it's like this rap. There's a lot of, it's like rap music in the time of the founding fathers, which admittedly it's not what we're talking about right now, but it's worth mentioning because it's the same writer. But yeah, as I said, there are problems in both. He's clearly layers it on too thick. He's too in your face. He's too obvious with it, and it just doesn't fit in with the rest of the song. And as I said, the writing, like you can't escape how in that song, when they took that line about the perfect daughter, just immediately makes your mind go to Mulan. Admittedly, I did watch Mulan quite recently, but still, it's just, I mean, it's so, that whole being the perfect daughter line, it's so obviously near identical to the line from When Will My Reflection Show Who I Am Inside, that it really does not do the film any good justice whatsoever. So yeah, music not that amazing. I mean, there was like one line of music that I heard in a radio trailer that I went to see the movie, that was what made me think, oh, this could actually have good music in it. And it literally is one line. It's like 2/3 of the way through the movie when Moana sings her name really loudly. No spoilers, but anyway, moving on from that, I didn't even realise Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was in this movie. I should probably talk about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He seems to be very popular over the pond at the moment. My little brother Theo is a big fan of CinemaSins and their podcasts, and he sort of he agrees with them that The Rock is this, apparently they consider The Rock, and a lot of people in America consider The Rock awesome. They think that he's like the modern movie superstar. Personally, he does absolutely nothing for me whatsoever. I mean, maybe it has something to do with me not being American, maybe it's something to do with me not having any interest in wrestling, or like his public persona in any way, but as far as I'm concerned, The Rock is a doofy guy who's not really much of an actor, who has appeared in some really shit films, like and like some movies which I've heard are okay, you know, people who really enjoy mindless action movies are a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. I've never seen any of them. I don't know if that makes me too much of a snob for... I don't mean to, like, you know... I could be missing out on an entire genre of film. I do enjoy mindless action some of the time, but I do think I would not enjoy any of the Fast and Furious movies. Perhaps I will watch them and see, you know, very soon, and we'll see if we can work this whole thing out, me and the Fast and Furious movies, and maybe I will love Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But as far as I'm concerned, he's not really a very good actor. He's okay in this, he's just fine. Like, his voice sounded really out of place because, I mean, pretty much everybody's doing quite obvious American accent for this movie. None of the people speak in native accents, despite the fact that they're supposed to be, I don't know exactly what... either way, that's... The fact that I don't actually know what nationality these people are supposed to be representing kind of leads me to not have, like, I have no idea. I mean, I kind of appreciate this movie for wanting to encourage young people to want to take an interest in new cultures, but this thing so glosses over these new cultures that, you know, just throwing in a couple of names, like the name of a demigod and such, that it's never actually really going to inspire anybody. I mean, I think Disney's Hercules would have done more to inspire people to investigate Greek mythology than this would into whatever nationality is being represented here. I really should know. It's amazing I don't know. But then that kind of says something about the film, to be honest. Anyway, yeah, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's voice is kind of really out of place because he's doing such an obvious American accent. His character is cardboard cutout, roguish guy who's self-interested and, you know, tries to make pithy quips all the time, and he doesn't care about anybody, and he's entirely self-invested, but, you know, deep down he's probably got a heart of gold, and that we've seen 100,000 times before. Moana's a pretty good, strong female protagonist. I mean, she kind of lets Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson walk all over her most of the time. Well, not most of the time, on the oddest of occasions. But I don't know, she herself is just not really that she's not like a very distinguished character. She's just, I mean, I can't think of anything about her. She's pretty strong-willed, and that's good. Some of the time she does really stand up to Maui, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character. But yeah, basically the story is of them traveling all over the ocean, and in order to return a magical stone to a god that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character, the Maui, stole from this god. And oh god, sorry, that's my phone. It's really annoying, but I've got to take this. So, sorry about that, I had to take that phone call, it was my work, and obviously I don't want to lose the bit of review that I've done already. Anyway, back where I was talking about, the plot is that, yeah, Maui and Moana are travelling across the ocean trying to deliver this stone back to a god that Maui stole it from. The conflict is, I mean, the actual journey is pretty dull. There's like a lot of invented conflict. Like there's this one villain who comes, there's this one set of villains who come out at, I don't know, about halfway through the film for an action sequence, and it's really entirely pointless. I mean, nothing is achieved by it. I mean, there's like a small amount of trust established between Moana and Maui, but it practically is it's so sort of bland and just pointless. It might as well be. It's like the film was written to be a video game, you know, like it would have made a better plot for a video game because these conflicts just come out of nowhere. It's basically like a demo level, a tutorial level for the rest of the film. And yeah, and then later on there's a more invented conflict where there's a disagreement between the two, between our leads for no real reason whatsoever. So yeah, there's that. It's not the most original plot. This movie's not that great. I mean, I'd probably show it to my kids, but only after I ran out of all the other good Disney Pixar movies to actually show them. It would probably be this, then The Good Dinosaur, and then I'd just leave them to stare at a wall for the rest of eternity. Yeah, that's pretty much how me and my kids are going to deal with things. So yeah, not my favourite Disney movie. As I said, there are a couple of visuals that are worth going to see, but I wouldn't go in expecting to be wowed with you know, fantastic original characters. It's great to see minority. Well, I say minorities. Minority isn't the correct phrase because they're not really minorities. They're actually the majority, kind of. But it's great to see people of different nationalities being represented more. Being different ethnic backgrounds being represented more as lead characters and things, but generally, I mean, not even a but to that. Actually, that's just good. Like, that's something that we can continue to work on. But yeah, it still doesn't really make it a good film. And yeah, so I mean, you won't be missing much if you don't go see this movie. You might as well just watch any other given Disney film and like actually get the points that have worked, the ideas that are conveyed in this film, but actually worked on in depth. You know, you know, it actually made the subject of their own film instead of just being all thrown together into one mixing pot and hoping that it's magically going to come out as something good, because it doesn't. And it's, as I said, it's a bit of a mess, this whole film, and it's a bit of a mishmash of other Disney ideas, just not done as well. And the music's not that great. It's just not that catchy because of what I talked about them cramming exposition into songs. Nobody's ever going to learn these songs because they're not, because you know, nobody wants to be reciting that much exposition that does, you know, clunkily to the beat of a pretty forgettable tune. It's, yeah, all in all, I wasn't particularly impressed by this movie. So yeah, go and see it if you like, but personally I'd give it like a 6 out of, well, yeah, 6 out of 10. I mean, maybe even less. Actually, I'd make it a 5, because I'd want it to be below 5, really, because the story is so bland and none of the characters really have any impact on me whatsoever. But having said that, it does have 1 or 2 nice visuals, so that probably knocks it up to 5 in just being fine. It's pretty watchable. I mean, it's not as agonising as Finding Dory got by the end, because it did seem like they just kept inventing new conflict there. Similarly to this film, I mean, there was even like a really similar character in this movie. There's a character who's just a chicken who, it's just a chicken who's clearly either suffered a brain injury or has has some kind of mental disorder, because it's just portrayed as being like completely unaware of its surroundings, and that's one of the main sources of comic relief for this film. And it's very, very similar to a bird character who appeared in Finding Dory, called Aggie or something. Either way, that's not that great. I mean, why would you even want that comic relief? It's why are we still doing jokes about people with mental health disorders, or even animals? Anyway, yeah, so that's settled. I'm going to do a quick spoiler section, so yeah, go see this film if you want, but frankly, you're not really missing out on anything. Quick spoiler section, go away anybody who doesn't want to hear this. In fact, it's not even really a spoiler, but you barely even need to go away, because it's just the most obvious ending to this incredibly cardboard cutout plot, was that, not cardboard cutout, but just like cut, copy and paste plot. You get the ending where they have a conflict, where they stop trusting each other, and the rebel guy who's always looking out for #1 decides to go off and abandon our hero, and she's left to deal with the situation on her own, and that way she becomes strong and more powerful. But he still comes back at the end to help save the day. You know, it's so cut, copy and paste. It's so done. It's like real, you know, Ice-T in the big giant head episode of Rick and Morty, you know, with the show me what you got, and Ice-T comes in at the end and saves the day. He's like, I care now. You made me care more. That's exactly what we get in this film. It was just sort of humorous. It was so obvious. And they play it completely straight, though, of course. One benefit, though, is that, as my girlfriend pointed out to me, who I went to see it with, was that Moana and Maui do not end up together as it could have ended. You know, it could have quite easily ended in that fashion. Fortunately, it didn't, and that's greatly appreciated, because we just don't need that to happen in every single movie ever. It's not that huge of a leap forward. I mean, it's not like it hasn't been done everywhere else as well, but I mean, it's still relatively good. At least that's one small bonus I can give it. So yeah, I don't want to be incredibly a huge downer on this film, but yeah, that's about all I've got to say about it. It was a bit of a letdown. But then again, my expectations with Pixar really aren't that great at the moment. After after what is now, I mean, 3 movies, so I can probably call it a slew of pretty mediocre films. But yeah, we've really got to pull our socks up. Well, not we, they, but also, like, I think it obviously has something to do with focus groups and what they know that their audience likes and such. So it probably, you know, that we need to make it more clear that we want these we want these new ideas, and we want fresh stuff, but people keep, you know, giving so much money towards movies like you know, to watch movies like this. They earn so much, they think this is what we want, but it's not what we want. We want new stuff. But that's Hollywood. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I really appreciate seeing you. I'm going to go and work on some other videos I've got going on. I've got all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's mainly I'm mainly still reviews and such at the moment, pretty much entirely. But you know, that's going all right. So yeah, I got to go get back to making other stuff to send to you guys. So thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. My name's Felix Jones and Lego Cheetah, and yeah, love you all. Thank you very much.